Good morning. Good morning. And welcome back. Welcome to Who Am I? Whether you're here with me today or whether you find me a month from now and then you're with me in this recording, does not matter. Time is not linear. It is stacked vertical. Or at least that's another way to look at it. The linear horizontal viewpoint, that's also a viewpoint. I'm not going to disallow it, but so who am I? That's the question. And actually my task as your host, this is what I do. I work my way into a vantage point where I am channeling my broader perspective. At least more fully than I do normally. Normally I am scoping my own individual life from my own individual vantage point, and I'm not necessarily trying to hit a bigger one consciously. But here in this show I do. And it takes me a while sometimes to get there. I mean, I start out, I'm kind of on the ground. It takes me a while to take off. My daughters and I call this process, this thing that we do, this conversation that we get into, this resistance-free conversation that we can get into, we call it flying. And we've been doing it with each other, this mode of conversation, since they were 12, 13 maybe. I consciously remember doing it and labeling it flying. On a road trip, I was driving the girls up to an Irish dance fesh in Colorado Springs. And we had hours and hours and hours on the road. And I don't remember when I labeled it with Amanda. That was a lot. Oh, I shouldn't be saying names. As a matter of fact, I erased that. I can't erase it. It's just going to go out there. With one of the girls, because I used to spend every Sunday with her, we would go out to breakfast with one another and then talk about the cosmos. And we had a flying type conversation going on. But then by the end of those sessions, we always would jerk back to the physical. We'd go find our resistance. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about a forum, a format, a platform, a conversation that is utterly without resistance. We're not going to have resistance in this conversation arena. I understand that, and I'm going to air quote this, and then I'm going to come right back to this landscape. I understand. Air quotes does it to me every time. I understand that what we have on the ground in reality is not always what I'm talking about. You know, I am an idealist, but what we're talking about in this forum is, what is my design? Who am I? And most particularly, who am I in reference to source energy? Because we are sussing out the source of all things. I want to know, I want to feel, I want to see, I want to understand what the source of everything is. I don't want to just be banging around in a ridiculously dangerous world and not understand the rules of the game. Now, in the olden days, we used to get our arbiter of truth, our place that we would go to find the answers. Who am I and how does this frickin' work? From what institutions would we have gone to ask these questions? When you're born and raised and you're growing up and you're like, I don't know what's going on, who do I go to ask? In the olden times, you would have gone to the church. I'm talking about like pre-science, pre-science. If you wanted to understand reality, you went to the church. Then science came along, and actually science as it observed in reality different things than the church was predicting you would be observing. Like Galileo was not supposed to be noticing that there appeared to be celestial objects orbiting around Jupiter. That should not have been the case because the church was banking on an Aristotelian perspective, the concentric perfection of spheres, echoing out from like going, we're the center of it, and then the perfect spheres echoing out into the cosmos, all things in heaven perfect and aligned in a particular way. Now I'm sure they were talking philosophically. But then they were saying there is a relationship, between the inner and the outer, between the this and the that. And so, as above, so below. But then Galileo came along and said, you know what, that's not what's happening. Look at, I made this telescope and I'm documenting, look at this. Well, they threw him in prison. And anyway, the short version of this story is that science and religion had to sort of shake hands, call a truce, and each go their separate ways and study the aspect of the universe that was their purview. We'll look at spirit, they said, and science, you can look at material manifestation. Well, it turns out there's a relationship between spirit and manifestation. It turns out there's a tremendous relationship between the frequency that you are in as you take impulses, download thoughts, and move through the atmosphere. There's a tremendous difference between how you do it depending on what frequency you're on. It's way different if you're on an angry frequency than if you're on a hopeful frequency. And it is not just, and you might say, well, that's all up to the conditions, isn't it? Because if it's hopeful conditions, I'll be hopeful. But if it's pissing me off conditions, I'm going to be angry. That is to live a life that is completely at the mercy of your surroundings. And the surroundings are such, I would advise you do not live your life that way. Do not set your emotions up that way. But then you say, if I don't have them harnessed into the conditions, then I'm not living in reality, and how am I going to get along in the world? If I don't plug in that way, then how am I going to live a life that is not, that people aren't accusing me of being batshit crazy because I'm not in touch with reality. I'm actually not suggesting that you not be in touch with reality. We're going to get in touch with reality. That's what the whole object of this exercise is. We're going to get in touch with reality. What the hell is reality? Who am I? How do I create my own reality? How is the manifestation unfolding around me? How do my actions affect how the manifestation unfolds around me? How does this freaking thing work? Who am I? Turns out my states of being have an enormous effect on my experience. And what you're actually, your own reality that you're creating, I just air quoted. My air quotes needs to be closer to me so that I need several of them. Maybe I need air quotes to be the very bottom one so that I can easily find it quickly. I don't know. We're going to get in touch with reality, though. We're going to understand how this works. We've been dropped onto this grid. We are playing the game. We are dropped on the stage. There's all kinds of analogies that you can look at for life existence. But we are on the board, on the grid, playing the game. How does it freaking work? We used to go and ask the church. How does reality unfold, and how do I become successful? Well, you got to believe in Jesus. Well, you got to believe this and you got to believe that, and if you don't, you're going to hell, or whatever they told us. And then along comes science, and they parted ways. We'll look at spirit, said church. We'll look at materiality. Well, we've come to a time in our history when these two concepts must be put back together again. Now, you might say, science isn't really looking at a thing. Science is a method of observation itself. You know, a logical process by which you repeat things and understand your physical world. Okay. But through that, you got to understand what spirit is then. Okay? If you can't use spirit to understand science, because what the hell is science anyway? Science isn't a thing. It's a process, right? Okay, so you got to use science then, your logical reasoning mind, to understand the spirit world. How do you do that one? Well, we're working on it here on this show. We're working on that sort of thing. We are going to use our sensibilities. Now, when I was growing up, when I first started out, I was what you would call gullible. And some people might still call me gullible now because I have a tendency to have quite an open mind. But the gullibility sort of shifted. What it meant was I was willing to believe anything, and I still am. I can believe anything. And I will believe anything at any time. However, a belief is a thought. A belief is just a thought, first of all. Now, Abraham says a belief is just a thought you keep thinking. For whatever reason, you keep thinking that thought. It clicks in with the other thoughts you got going on. It's you've worked it into your iOS. It's up there in your primary assumptions, and so you think it all the time. A belief is, but ultimately, a belief is just a thought. And the human mind is really capable of doing something that most people don't try to do with it, which is think any thought. You can take any thought and just try it on. Put it on. Taste it. Let it play with the other thoughts you got around you, your other beliefs and stuff. Just let it play there. What does that look like? What does it feel like? Does it set right? Does it feel right? How does it set? Now, the first thought that came to me when I realized I wanted to express this was the idea that you can try on any thought. And you are way more flexible than you ever thought you were. You don't need to be afraid of trying on thoughts. They don't need to stick. I advise people to never, ever, 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 ever believe anything that does not make sense to you. And so your beliefs are going in your operating system. They go into a place. I think Abraham's correct about this. A belief is just a thought you keep thinking. Now, it's true, the way things click in, there's a reason why you would believe something and not believe something else, and that has to do with it making sense. So I suppose that the idea to illuminate here is the idea of making sense rather than belief. A belief is just an idea, a thought you keep thinking. That's true. It is true. But why would you believe something and not... Why would you think something all the time? Because it makes sense to you. So I would advise never, ever, ever should you ever believe anything that does not make sense to you. If it doesn't make sense to you, then just keep going. Keep going, keep going. Look for the sense. Look for the sense. But keep adding everything in. If you can't make sense of it, then you just go, well, I don't know what to do with that, but I'm going to just put it in that place where everything goes. And it will make sense at some point in the future. don't believe anything that doesn't make sense to you. Don't use your faith muscle that way. Faith can bridge anything. You can bridge belief with faith. You can do that. But I would advise you to think twice about where and when you use your faith. It's such an important bridge. It's such an important tool. It's like a it's a very special tool. It does allow you to jump from one thing to another thing, even if it doesn't appear to make sense. You can jump it with faith. I think you need to be careful where you put your faith. You know, when I was younger, I'm going to say that term a lot. When I was younger, I used to believe blah, 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 blah. You may realize by now that I have come to my position, my very religious position, because I am going to be talking about the allness, the almighty, the oneness that we are a essential part of. You are so important to the oneness. You are so small, and yet you are so big. We are all the eyes on the ground, boots on the ground for the allness that we are all a part of. And it's really cool. But I came to my position from a very secular direction. Very, very secular direction. I mean, I had a religious upbringing, and it did have quite an effect on me. And I didn't reject it. I actually walked away from that going, you know, I'm watching these people, I'm watching them bear their testimony, and they seem very sincere. They really, really believe what they are saying. How is that possible? What is the meaning of that? Not just, is what they're saying true or not? I walked away from that religion, I rejected it all, it's not true, none of that. No, there was something very real about that religion, for sure. The people involved in it, they were committed and very passionate too. Very passionate about what, and I think I understand why now. There was something about that religion that did tick a number of very important boxes. Some pedagogical boxes, first of all. This religion was very involved with the pedagogical moments of your life, you know, so they were really good at raising children. They were good at burying the dead. They are good at being aware of all of the real moments of your life, the birth, when women give birth, and when couples get married, and the milestones along the pathway of the raising of children, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. They were very connected and involved with you and your life as you made your way and made sense of your world. This particular religion I thought was better than most, although it's the one I was raised in, so what do I know about most? You know, but as far as being, they had an understanding of spirit is primary. Get into that spirit of loving connection, get into the spirit first, and then we'll talk about the gospel, which I thought was a good thing, you know. And then the other one was they did have a focus on the Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit, the listening to the still small voice that is private within you. Follow that one for you. They actually have a great respect for that. So if you had any sort of rebellion you wanted to do, if you came at it from that direction, true God-based rebellion, you could do it. You could do it from within that church because they would allow true calling from within one's spirit. So I believe that those are the reasons why that particular religion is fairly successful. It's also why a lot of people call it a cult, because it does mind itself about certain life passage practicalities that otherwise some religions are just over there in the spirit realm. Hey, we don't presume to know anything about anything, but boy, do we know about God and the spirit. Well, that's kind of what we're talking about in this forum, this format, this resistance free conversation space that I am trying to open up. We'll see how well I do and how many people I can get to join this conversation. At first, it's just going to be me and me practicing being the host of this format, this forum, where I myself link up with my own inner being and my own knowing of what it is to be a human being. I'm not going to float off into the cosmos. I'm not Abraham. I am not Bashar. I am not channeling a personality from another planet or another time. I am only trying to channel my own larger concerns as a human being and my own physicality, my own design. I'm trying to find words that is describing the physicality merged with the larger perspective, the bigger me that I really am, as a human being, not as a disconnected, disembodied being. I'm a human being in a human body with a human life, needing to know human understandings in a human world where we have human systems that are large human systems that are grinding away at the needs of humanity itself. Humanity with a capital H. Who am I as humanity? All of that, because I am little me and I am big me. I am the macro and the micro. I am the micro and the macro, however you want to emphasize that. I am both. Who am I? And at some point, if I open up this conversation enough and then get good enough at being the host, I will start inviting people into the space in real time. Somebody's going to get online and they're going to go, oh, she's streaming right now. Let's go listen. And then they're going to call in. Or however you do that. We'll find out. I know it's in my future. I want to do this show. This is the show I want to do. And if you're listening to me now, I mean, I'm not really concerned that some days I don't even get any listeners. And some days I don't understand YouTube. Some days I will see a number, 1 or 2 or something listeners. And then the next day I refresh and it shows 0 listeners. And I'm like, I don't understand. Did they click into me tomorrow? But for some reason, the realities converged yesterday. And so for a minute, I saw those views tomorrow. Is it because of linear time not lining up linearly? Or is there some way that people are watching and then erasing their watches? They go to their history and then they erase the history. Does that make the watch go away? I don't know. How do you erase that? You shouldn't be able to subtract things. I'm always saying in this show that there is no such thing as subtraction in this universe of addition. Especially when it comes to your consciousness. You ran across it, you add it in, girl. It doesn't mean you have to focus on it, though. You just have to know that it's part of the picture. It's part of the picture of the allness, which contains 2 aspects of that allness. One is everything that you've ever come across. And then the other allness is everything that actually exists. And your everything that you've ever come across is just lighting up. It's like when you're playing a role-playing game on the computer. And as you are walking through the map, it lights up, it fills in the grid as you walk through it, right? Well, that's what you're doing as you walk through information. You pick it up and you stick it on your grid in that place. So this is what it is. You've got a place in your consciousness all set up. It's a template ready to reflect all that is. so that you can look in your own mind and understand the all that is out there. I'm pointing out there. You can't see me because the camera's not on me. I'm pointing out there. You're the way you look out there, pointing out there, she does, is you look at the mirror in here that is reflecting out there. Do you understand how you're relating to your world? Brings me to my first change of scenery, besides that air quotes I did a little while ago. This picture, which represents to me, which is why I show it all the time. I need better graphics, absolutely. Someday, someone is going to come and help me with that. But for now, I'm just working on me. Now, my picture appears to have a corruption in it now. I can see it, so you can probably see it too. I don't know what has happened. I could go reload that, maybe. Maybe it might fix it. Hold on. Maybe I could do that. All right, there we go. I fixed that picture. I don't know what happened to corrupt that. And I don't even know if it was a showing to the outside world. I don't ever watch my videos. It would take too much... it also would make me more self-conscious. Literally self-conscious. I do not want to be self-conscious. I want to just be my big self without worrying about what anybody thinks it sounds like. At some point, I'm going to have all kinds of people in this conversation. We're just going to have a conversation, and everybody's going to be glad that I started this conversation. So what do I have to be self-conscious about? Well, I'm worried that my loved ones are going to think I'm cracking up, which I'm not. I'm not. I am totally in touch with reality. I really, really am. And as a matter of fact, it is my primary intention to be fully in touch with clear, actual, not superstitious, but actual reality. And I have recognized that in order to truly use your mechanisms to their full capacity, to their full... to really understand how your equipment works and work it properly. If you want to truly be in touch with reality, you kind of got to let go of reality a little bit. Quit with your physical mind being so dang sure that you know, because it's so much bigger. And actually you do know, but let loose of your physical mind knowing, because it doesn't really know. And allow your imagination to know a little more, because actually your imagination is downloads between your higher self and your on the ground, boots on the ground self. You are a binary self, remember? We talk about this every day. And this picture is it represents it to me. Source mind on the left, your physical, specific micro mind on the right. Your physical brain in your physical skull, looking at the physical things that you know in your physical world. That's you on the right. But you are not just that. You have a mind that is way bigger than you know. It is a mind. And if you, in your physical mind, start thinking thoughts that occasionally line up with the kinds of thoughts that your larger self is actually thinking, you'll feel it, you'll know it, you'll go, oh, wow, I really am a bigger self. And I can either join this party or I can just bang around down here and complain about things. And you can either be aware of your bigger life, your bigger self, or you can stay oblivious to it. I would suggest that you become aware of it, because life becomes so much more interesting. And I think that we as humanity can easily solve our problems if we would embrace who we really are. Quit arguing about God, people. God is there. God, let's just define God. Some people have it very anthropomorphically defined as a literal, separate being, just like they are. God's just like me, so God's a separate being somehow. God is a force. God is an organizational force. God is an aspect of the design so integral, so pervasive, so universal, so connected to us all, so ubiquitous, it's hard to describe. But the point of it is, so we're not going to talk about it in terms of God, because that becomes more personal, how it is you're looking at it. We're going to talk instead about source energy, because when you can talk about source energy in mathematical terms, in matter-of-fact terms, we're going to talk about vortices and spin and black holes and Planck's and the quantum field, and we're going to talk about all kinds of those kind of things as we discuss how matter emerges, what gravity is in that. Gravity is not an effect caused by matter. Gravity is a fundamental aspect of the matter as it comes into being. The spin is all fundamental, and when you add all of the spin in, that actually turns into the dark matter and the dark energy everybody's looking for. It's the spin, baby. It's the spin. It adds, it's the fluctuation aspect. Here's the picture that shows to me. Is this the one? As these Plancks are coming, they wink back and forth across the virtual reality line. It's the event horizon of the 0-point energy field. As they wink back and forth, as they come into being, as they go from nothing into something, they are spinning. It's spin. It's all spin. It's this ether spinning. That is what is causing the effect that we call the material world. It's these Plancks spinning. And where they are not spinning, they're all lined up like crystals, and it's solid pack everywhere, and you just have to really open up your mind and get really flexible about what you're looking at. Look at everything and see the similarities. Look at the analogies. It's just really, the universe is such a cool place. And our understanding of this is going to free us from fossil fuels. Once and for all, it will free us from fossil fuels in a big way. And not in a way that is still centralized, with centralized power, and we all have to get together and freaking agree on material specifics. How was that ever part of the everybody having to agree on material specifics? How is that possible? It's not possible. I am my macro and my micro, and I am, from my position on the grid, in charge of making choices about my material specific from right here. How am I supposed to make decisions for positions that I do not occupy? Our system is ridiculous. The empire that it is trying to control right now, and the forces and energies that it is trying to hold back. We're gonna write all these laws, and we're gonna have this system that our sainted forefathers gave us 250 years ago, or whenever it was, and that is going to hold back the vibrational tide of what's rolling down the pike at us, which is this vibrational propensity to the autocrat. Why do democracies devolve to that? Why does that happen? I actually don't believe it has to happen, but I do believe that in order for it not to happen, we really need to understand why it happened. It might be that an empire is untenable. that we're not at the place where we can join together in a clump as large as an empire. Our consciousness is not there yet. We've got to advance our consciousness because, frankly, we can link up all the way to the allness. We could line up and do it correctly. That we could go all the way that way. But we would have to know who we are, and we would have to understand source energy, and we would have to understand the frequencies and the morphogenetic fields that contain the data, the information, the data fields of the certain forms as we join the larger and larger and larger group, as we click into the intergalactic morphogenetic field. We become part of the galactic community. In order to become part of the galactic community, we have to click into the morphogenetic field of the galaxy. And the only way to do that is to go into your own centers of your own inner being and understand. It's like, so this is the point in the show where I do that. This appears to be a regular part of it, where I'm reading this quote every day because it matters. When you integrate yourself as a biological being, you connect with the morphogenetic field of the planet. When you integrate yourself at the atomic level, you integrate with the solar system, you connect with the solar system. At the level of the proton, you integrate with the galaxy, and when you get all the way down to the Planck, you integrate with the universe. And so that's an expression of you clicking into the data fields, the morphogenetic fields of all these larger and larger systems. You cannot be an intergalactic traveler without having some understanding of the connected nature of the universe. You just can't do it. It's not going to be the Star Trek or the Star Wars vision of intergalactic war. You can't travel between the galaxies if you do not understand its connected nature. And you cannot go to war. You just can't do it. It won't happen. And I think that we have probably a whole bunch of beings that are watching us from just outside the safe zone. I don't know where that would be. The moon on the other side of Jupiter. I'm not sure exactly where it is safe to watch us. They are watching us and they're feeling us. You can feel us. You can feel our chaos. You can watch what we're doing and know. By implication, it is so obvious that we do not know who we are because of the people that we elect, because of the systems that we are trying to adhere to, because we're not if we knew who we were, this is how we would operate in this world. We wouldn't be worried about everybody else. We wouldn't be trying in everybody else's business. We would singularly be connected to our own inner beings and then acting solely out of that. Plug into source, and then take whatever impulses you get from that position. Source is now directing your feet. You don't have to worry about whether or not your motions are going to blend with the rest. Of course they are, because Source has her eye on more than just your needs and wants. Source has her eye on the convergence point where all of our needs and wants are met. Where all of our needs are met, and then all of our wants and desires are played with from that position. So that all of the needs that it's not just bare needs, it's not bread and water. Our food and water needs are not just bread and water. We're talking about the banquet of life, the banquet of abundance that this universe is capable of of co-creating with us if we would get on board with it. Get off of our frickin' whatever it is that we do, and let's get on with the game. It's going to be fun, people, but we got to know who we are. We got to understand who we are. We are source mind as well as our own individual mind. You got to blend the two. How can you tell if they're blended? You feel good. How can you tell if they're not blended? You are in some state of negative emotion. The negative emotion you feel is not because the condition you are observing is bad. You are correctly observing it. You don't like it. Therefore, negative emotion. That is not why you have negative emotion. Now, it is possibly very true. You are observing something that you do not like, and you do not have to like it. It's probably because it is out of alignment in some way. It is demonstrating some discord in the field. Of course you don't like that. It clashes. It doesn't feel right. You want, inherently, something inside of you wants to organize that, wants to plug it into source and dance and play with it instead of agonize over it the way you're doing. And you don't have to like what you don't like. But that's not why you are negative. You are negative because your two minds are not blending, because you are not seeing it through the eyes of your source. You're seeing it through the eyes of your physical, and you're not understanding it. You're not understanding who you are. You are not understanding what is being played out in front of you. There's a much, 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 much bigger pattern of us all being one with this, trying to understand it all. That's what's going on. And when you start looking, when you start seeing that, catching a whiff of it, you quit agonizing so hard over the suffering of your fellow beings. Although your desire is still strong to alleviate the suffering in the field. I still want to feed the starving babies and stop the eco-destruction, and I want to stop the polar bears from drowning and the Korean dogs from being tortured before they're eaten, because apparently that makes them more delicious. I want to stop orphan elephants from being orphaned. I want their societies to continue with their cultures, to inform them about the wisdom of the land and the truth of this glorious, glorious, glorious ecosphere that we are sharing with one another. Plug into source, and then from that position, let your feet find their way. And we will all find a place where we can all be fed, where we all breathe clean air and have clean water that we share with one another. I know that we can find this. We just need to find the consciousness of it. We are so close. There is now so much more wisdom on the ground across the planet, ready to accept this understanding of the connectedness of the web of life, this energy field that connects us all, this morphogenetic energy field that we are all part of. Actually, it's what it is there's a field of information that we share, that you cannot keep the information secret from everyone else. There is this thing called universal consciousness, and there's a reason they call it that, because it knows everything. It knows everything that is known. And it is out to live life, to find new ways to declare who it is and what it wants, and how it can be in this world. When we identify with that aspect of ourselves, when we answer the question, who am I? With the answer, I am the field, and know what that means, we're going to be able to create a world. Well, first of all, let's solve all of our problems. because we do have problems. We have worldwide poverty. We have persistent war. We have the sixth mass extinction. We have starving, suffering people across the planet. We have ecocide. We are destroying large swaths of Mother Gaia's body. We are snipping the threads of the web of life, and we will kill ourselves if we continue to do that. In spite of what the popular movies would have you believe, there is no way that human beings are going to live on any planet that is dead. We have to live on a living planet. We need to be the whole thing. We are the whole thing. We are not just human beings. We are the whole thing. And so we have to be the whole thing. So where am I in the narrative? What are we going to talk about with all of this? I also always bring up in this discussion, here's my little picture of the neocortex, which is your micro version of broader perspective. This is your micro version, your mini-me version, your micro-me version of broader perspective. It can see the broader perspective on the physical situation on the ground around you. Now, this is why it is so important that your thoughts and your true broader perspective thoughts mesh. Because your source mind really does have broader perspective. She really knows everything. She knows how physically the spirit that is you knows and is very concerned with. I mean, she knows and is grounded deeply in physicality. So when you listen to her, you are not being unrealistic. You are being so realistic because you are trusting your higher mind to know where all the molecules really are and how they're moving and what you want in the picture. Your higher mind knows what you want out of the situation. That's how it is personal. That's how it's so personal to you. As well as being, this allness thing that's in touch with all things and in some ways not freaking personal at all. I don't know when I paused. I've been talking for a while and I don't know when I paused, so I'm just going to have to jump back in somewhere. I don't know what I was talking about. I had this picture up. I was talking about whether or not we're genetically modified and how it all adds up. This I need to move my microphone. My microphone is blocking that little view where it says paused if I pause it. And so I don't know where I paused. But I was onto something really good. I brought up Greg Braden and the lost mode of prayer that he got from the Gospel of St. Thomas. That was the Gospel of St. Thomas is the one from it is one of Jesus's apostles, but his book did not make it into the Bible. It didn't make it the final cut of the books that made it into the Bible. But there is a passage in the Gospel of St. Thomas where he talks about how to manifest, how to bring physical manifestations into being. And it ropes in human emotion here. Human emotion speaks to the field, speaks to the manifesting field of physicality. So hold on just a second. This is the instruction for manifestation from the Gospel of St. Thomas. Are you ready for this? And we'll talk about it on the other side of the quote. Ask without hidden motive, and be surrounded by your answer. Be enveloped by what you desire, that your gladness be full. So far you have not done this, and your prayers have not been answered. That is a direct quote from the Gospel of St. Thomas. Now what it's saying, what it means when it says, ask without hidden motive. It means your desire needs to be pure, and then you let go of your attachment to the answer. You completely let go of your attachment is what they're saying without hidden motive. Don't have attachment to the answer. Don't have hidden motive. Don't already have an agenda in your mind that it has to be. As Bashar would say, I like this line, insistence on a particular outcome. Insistence equals resistance. If you're insisting on things being a particular way, you may think, oh, I'm not insisting on it being a particular way. I'm just watching it because I think it's going to be this way. Well, your attachment to it being any particular way stops it from being able to be any way that it could. And the universe has many, 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 many different avenues by which the reality of the abundance can get to you. But if your only avenue of abundance that you recognize is money, and you're watching your bank account and that money is not appearing in your bank account, you may be missing all of the resources that you have all around you that would allow you to take the next step in your life, and the next and the next and the next and the next. And it might even end up with a pile of money. But if you have insistence on only one way, it puts resistance on your ability to recognize it coming any other way. So insistence equals resistance. I like that line. I think that's a good one. But back to the Gospel of Thomas and the lost mode of prayer. I have a link to... Greg Braden used to sound like a preacher. And he had this thing about where he's preaching about... It's this long thing on YouTube. It goes for an hour and more than an hour. It doesn't matter. Gospel of St. Thomas and the Lost Mode of Prayer. It's actually an instruction manual on how to line up your energy in order to manifest in the physical world. Now, there is a version of this in the Gospel of John, I think it's John that has this. It tells you, but it doesn't fill out the actual instructions on how to make it happen. Now here, let's go back and look at this. Ask without hidden motive, and be surrounded by your answer. Be enveloped by what you desire, that your gladness be full. What do they mean by that? What does he mean by that? What he's saying is, it's sort of like Abraham's discussion of every subject is two subjects. It's the presence of it and the absence of it. You know? Both are the same subject, but they feel vibrationally quite different. If you're talking about money, for instance, the topic of money, are you talking about enough money? Or are you talking about absence of money, lack of money, it not being there? because they're actually two different subjects. Well, it's the two ends of the stick of the same subject. So what he's saying here when he says, be surrounded by your answer, be enveloped by what you desire, that your gladness be full. It means act as if, feel the presence of your answer. Don't feel the absence of it, feel the presence of it. What would, as though it's there, feel that. Even if in physicality you look around, you don't see it. Feel as though it's there, and your gladness will be full. It will come into your experience. That abundance will come into your experience when you feel it. When you're broadcasting the lack of it, the universe keeps reflecting back the lack of it. When you broadcast the presence of it, the universe will start demonstrating the presence of it. The universe is a large reflection of whatever it is that you are doing, because what it's reflecting back to you is it's reflecting back to you your own experience, is how it can do that. How it can, in totality, the whole universe reflects back to you what you are broadcasting out. How is it doing that? Well, it's doing that because of the way your mechanism produces your own experience. It really is important what frequency you are broadcasting on. The frequency you're broadcasting on is the same one that you're going to be receiving on. Which brings me to this little gem of an inadequate illustration. But this is your brake and your accelerator. This is what this represents. You don't want to go specific unless you're in the positive, because specific anything is the gas, it's the accelerator. You go faster and faster in this physical plane when you go specific. That's what you in your physical body are designed to do. You are the specific for the great general who is all of us together. The convergence point, the place where we all come together and get along together, where all of our needs converge, where all of our wants converge, where all of our being converges. That's where God is. Our job is the specific. And in carrying out our little specific tasks, it is our job to line our two minds up with one another. That's your only task. That's your only task that's anything like work. The rest of it, if you get lined up, the rest of it becomes a lot more pleasant. When you are lined up, when your two minds are in alignment with one another, at least that small mind, the micro mind, needs to be anywhere where that source mind is shining light. Anywhere. It doesn't matter. There's lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of things to choose from, and you have to choose. You choose the frequency you're on, and then you choose from that frequency what you want or need to look at in order to keep yourself safe from whatever's coming down the pike at you. I'll tell you what, collectively, what's going to be happening is we've got a field phenomenon going on, in place, in progress. It's the field phenomenon called authoritarian psychosis. This is what Carl Jung would have called it anyway. That's what he called the autonomous complex phenomenon projected out into the larger arena. It looks like authoritarian psychosis. Paul Levy calls it Wetiko disease. And it is the scourge of humanity. It turns out it happens to be the state of misalignment. And it's catching. It's contagious. The state of misalignment is contagious. Well, The good news is that the state of alignment actually is contagious too. It's actually more contagious. One of the reasons that it is because Source Mind gives us a head start on the momentum. The momentum, the positive momentum of Source Mind and Source Energy and the larger pattern that you are all just inherently playing your part in is, it's got a way head start on the negative momentums. So what do I want to do with this? Where do I want to go with this from here? Where can I add anything new? I'm going to, as always, put in the description the many, many things that I have been collecting. I have a new one too, actually. I found the old movie. It was put out just after 2012. I don't really know exactly what year. Actually, let me pop over and ask the Magic Box that question. Hold on. The answer is 2016. That movie was made in 2016. I found it on YouTube, so I'm going to add it to my my things that I add, that I put the links to in my description. We've got The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It. We've got now let's see, The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It. The Origin of Mass and the Nature of Gravity, both the paper and the video explaining the paper. Quantum Revolution, the first episode. You got to go find the next 11 on your own. The article, Butterfly Dreaming, and now The Connected Universe. Which, you know, just put the whole thing together, along with my show. And know that we're talking about something real here. Something real that's so dreamy and so cool and so based on frequencies and spirits and states of being. And, you know, man, the world is just so much cooler than we ever thought it was. It's vibrational. The universe is vibrational. You know, I don't need to keep showing this. This is cymatics. It's the relationship between form and vibration and yada, yada, yada. Here are the 5 kleshas. This is considered to be in Buddhist philosophy. And there's billions of Buddhists around the planet. In Buddhist philosophy, this is what's considered to be the root cause of all suffering. Not knowing what's freaking real. How familiar does that sound? Here's the paper, The Origin of Mass, Nature of Gravity. Emotional guidance scale. Maybe I don't know what else I'm going to talk about today. If you're a regular of the show, and I hope you are, and if you aren't today, I hope you will be someday, and someday you're listening to me say these words. If you're a regular of the show, I'm going to be taking 7, maybe, well, 8 actually. 8 days off, maybe 9. Saturday through Saturday for sure. So that's 8 days, and possibly next Sunday also. We're going on a little field trip. We're going to go out into the field and we're going to do some bonding with one another and some exploration of what's going on out there. Do some practice on how to work your own equipment as you get by in the world out there. Excuse me. So if I go dark for a few days, that's why. Today's Thursday. There'll be one more show. Tomorrow morning I will come back and do one more show before my break. Until tomorrow, I guess I'm gonna quit early today because I'm not sure where to go with this conversation. There's lots of things to talk about. Maybe I won't go yet. Hold on just a minute. Let me regroup. I mean, you've got the background gist, right? This is who we are. We are broadcasters and receivers. The frequency you're broadcasting on is the one you're receiving on. It's just exactly like a mirror. And if you want that mirror to smile at you, you can't force the mirror to smile from the outside. You are not working the conditions from the outside, trying to make them change. If you want that mirror to be smiling, you've got to smile. It's exactly like that. And it's a bass-ackwards way of looking at the world and experience, but you've got to trust in this system. You've got to understand who you really are. And then have faith. Intellectually understand it so that it all makes sense. And then as soon as it makes sense, then you go, okay. And now, as you experientially operate on the ground, have faith that that works. Let go of physicality in order to make sure that the physicality turns out better than it's turning out now. I am not pleased with the way it's turning out. Way too much poverty, way too much anger, way too much starvation and suffering and non-cooperation and non-co-creation. It's just, I don't like it. The storms of chaos are more than my drama-free persona really enjoys. I enjoy no drama. I don't want drama. I want the peace and harmony. What happens to my spirit when I feel that? I want that. I do not want the drama. Done with drama. I would like the drama, the high drama of cleaning it all up now. Let's clean up Garbage Island. Garbage Island. I haven't mentioned Garbage Island for a long time. I have purposefully not taken my consciousness over. I have heard tell of a large spinning swath of garbage in the ocean, the size of Texas in the Pacific Ocean. I don't even want to talk about it. It may not even be true, but if it's true, I don't want to think about it. So there you have it. What are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about our lives? I actually do believe that this better understanding of who we are and this whole system, this holistic whole system that we got going on here within our own being, the system of rolling manifestation, the world of flux and form, and the world of the formless. By the way, you are formless coming into form. That's who you are. You are neither formless nor are you form. You are formless coming into form. So you're both, right? Who am I? How do we use our better understanding of this who am I that we are to get us collectively off fossil fuels? Because I think fossil fuels is creating a large problem in the world. It's constricting Mama Gaia's ability to produce the abundance that will feed us all. It is interfering with her ability to do that. Our burning fossil fuels. That's first of all. And second of all, we don't need to. We could have incrementally been coming off the damn things for the last 100 years if our own precious government, in bed with industry, had not been suppressing this information for over a century. If you're interested in knowing more about that, watch the movie The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It. I put it in the description. Now I know that my one regular listener, or whoever you are out there, you probably are a sibling of mine, just watching to make sure that I don't need a butterfly net. You know, it really is documenting my descent into madness. But if I only have one listener, and so you already know, and you've probably already watched the movie, but someday I'm going to have more listeners, and so all of these descriptions matter. Maybe tomorrow we'll talk about authoritarian psychosis. I could do some research on and get a few more words about it, because Paul Levy's got words, and Carl Jung had words, and then I can bring in Eckhart Tolle's pain body concept too when I talk about that, because that all relates. I could talk about just the negative mind, why you don't want to believe your negative mind. I could do a show just on the negative mind. The negative mind is trying to convince you that it exists because of that bad thing out there that it's connected to, that's causing you to zap yourself in the solar plexus with negative frequencies. It's causing you to slow down, because that very act of you doing that has implied to yourself that you have some misunderstandings about who you really are. So let's go a little slower here, because we are approaching some chaos in the field. It's interesting. All of these things. How do you interpret the... Oh, who am I? Who am I? How do I drive this machinery? This Ferrari of the universe, this starship flying through space and time. How do I fly it into a successful operation? What do I want? What do I want? I want peace on my planet. I want clean air for everyone. Clean water for everyone. I want Mama Gaia to be producing co-creatively in abundance food and shelter and abundance for all of us. I do want that. I do not want to see human activity committing genocide upon this planet any longer. Genocide, ecocide, planeticide, all of the things that we are doing. Not interested in it anymore. I want to play with my environment. I want to get to know my fellow non-human creatures. I want to probe the consciousnesses and the personalities and the knowingness of all the other non-human and human species on this planet. It's going to be fun. We're going to have such a good time. So, where do I go from here today? Well, I guess for today, I'm going to call it quits. Tomorrow, I'll be inspired to talk about something else. I don't know what. I know I only made it, what did I make it? 1 hour and 12 minutes. Coming up on 1 hour and 13. That's not a whole hour and a half. I should be talking about it for 1 hour and a half. But I guess I will close it up for today. But I'll come back tomorrow, and then you'll get a break. You can go back and watch if you haven't seen any of my episodes, go back and pick up any of the stuff from the past. There's a few that are showing nobody's watched, and there could be some really interesting stuff there that you are not allowing yourself to experience. So go back and watch some of my old episodes. Like them if you like them. Comment to me, although I still do not know how to read those comments. So if you have made any comments to me, somebody commented when I came back from New Zealand, welcome back. Thank you. Whoever did that comment, I appreciated it. And I went back and tried to find it again, and I couldn't find it because I don't know how. I see a different face than you see, and I really don't know how. I don't understand my own technological equipment. I am not a tech person. I am a big picture person. And it is just my job to get better and better and better at talking about the big picture. Someday I will co-create with someone who is a tech genius, a wizard, and we're going to make fabulous, fabulous videos. I know it. But until then, I'm just going to come into my own little studio and do my own little recordings. I never put this one up. I like this one because it shows the momentum of the different thoughts. And how, if you pick up a chaotic thought, if you pick up a negative thought, it starts growing. It builds momentum, doesn't it? Guess I've shown everything. Where's my last picture? Here we go. My last little fellow. You can see why I'm ending the show, because for whatever reason, my energy level has dipped. That is not acceptable. My show is supposed to be high energy. We're talking about solving the problems of the world, right? Seriously solving the problems of the world by us understanding who we are and how we can plug our own identity, our own id, our own impulses, our own our own who am I into source energy, as opposed to plugging it into the world of flux and form. You plug it in there, you start getting nervous pretty quick. Who am I? I am the eternal. I am the quantum field itself. And when you identify that way, your fear falls away from you. Now hold that position and go play in the field. Go play. Know that you are source energy, that you are okay, that you are supported in everything that you do, that you will see a reflection of who you are everywhere you look. So be who you really are, as opposed to some chaotic imposter. Imposter. Isn't that funny? Even that word begins with the word imp. So, I'm glad you were with me. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Until then, I bid you peace, and may the source be with you.